Hello and namaste, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Breaking News. I'm your ever humble host, the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. Let's get the show started. Today's episode, when the fake news is real news is fake. Why did I pick that title? Because there is a pattern. And that pattern is a vicious spiral. A vicious downward spiral. A vicious downward ego trap spiral. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm putting the cart before the horse. When the fake news is real news, is fake news, is real news, can't tell the difference. How do we, the people, the public, the consumers of the news, how do we end this vicious cycle of real fake news and fake real news? And get back to reporting just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. You get a gold star if you remember. Oh, I guess I can't tell if you look it up on Google. Where that show is from. That's an old line from an old TV show from way back in the day. All right. An alternate title for today's segment could have been Echo versus Echo, which is what I wrote down actually about 2 days ago on a note page here. First, I want to welcome any new fans, any new listeners. I humbly welcome you to my very small, very silly show. And I hope you find it interesting, thought-provoking, and maybe even worth listening to again. As many of you know, I've been fighting off a nasty summertime sinus head cold thing. So if I cough, forgive me. Okay, so media, the news. Now there's two big camps out there about how to think about the news. One is journalism is a patriotic American institution, part of the checks and balances of the state's mechanisms for keeping power in government, held accountable and in check by the people. While I don't want to overcharacterize it, that is a kind of statist leaning. And then there's the sort of, I don't want to call it anarchists, but then again, many anarchists probably do identify this way. Because Trump is not the first person. Trump did not invent the tactic of calling any news you don't like fake news. It's not new news, that one. But he certainly brought that tactic to the forefront and to a level unprecedented in American history. Well, that's not even really true, too. He's not the first president of the United States to generally dismiss some news articles about him as inaccurate, untrue, or misleading. And to be fair, it's not the first time that journalism has been used as a tool for character assassination or character smudging, etc., etc., etc. And for those who may not know me very well, I am fully aware of the notion that mainstream corporate media is not only corrupt by its power and its money and its influence channels, but that it is in fact verifiably all sort of been consolidated into the ownership of a very small cadre of super wealthy owners of the biggest corporations in the world. there's no denying that in the spectrum of available corporate media, it's pretty obvious that ideological spectrum segments have been carved out and turned into echo chambers. It's always easiest to flatten out an example to a dichotomy, although this is not a fair description of the entire spectrum of all the news outlets out there. You do definitely have it you can reduce it down to a left versus right kind of dichotomy. Fox News representing the right or ever-growing extreme right. And I personally, as an observer, as an unbiased, I try to be unbiased, as a non-partisan, that's easy to do. I don't belong to any partisanship identity labels. As a non-ideological person, as an anti-ideology sort of thinker, my observation about Fox News, trying to be as kind and as generous with the benefit of the doubt as possible, is that given their corporate leanings and their corporate interests, they purposefully try to infuse their audience, their base audience, or they approach their base audience with the following sort of attitudinal or sort of thematic tactics. They are generally alarmist, and the things that they get alarmist about, they approach with really healthy doses of hyperbole and skimp doses of actual detail. All right, and they have zero problem reporting out and out lies and perpetuating out and out lies, as long as they aren't the ones who are sourced in the reporting. As long as it isn't if they're just perpetuating something the president said, for example, that has been verified as false, they'll keep doing it for as long as possible. On the other hand, the opposite end of the spectrum, which can be summed up by take your pick, MSN or CNN, they tend to portray themselves or approach their audience with this notion of we're meticulous, we're detail-oriented, it's our patriotic duty, we're part of the checks and balances, and they try not to appear to be as hysterical. I mean, no, they actually aren't. Not that they try not to. They literally aren't quite as hysterical as Fox News accuses them of being. It's always really interesting when Fox News makes commentary about CNN or MSNBC and plays segments on their show about them and how they treat or how they critique and respond to whatever was in the content of those segments, vice versa, the other way around. And that's not an accident, okay? Each of these platforms at the highest level is designed and is targeting a specific audience. The only way for any product to be successful, given that although marketing is evil and corrupt, it does tap into some realities about how the human species works at the mundane, materialist, statist, consumerist level. So there's some truths to marketing and marketing techniques, right? And each of these, all news agencies, whatever end of the spectrum they portray themselves to be, they understand or have people in their agency that understand marketing, and they are indeed addressing as specific of an audience as possible. You'll note that it's rather rare for crossover audience to be consistent and balanced. Fox, overwhelming majority, their audience is pro-Trump and anti, quote-unquote, the fake news mainstream media. And, MSNBC, generally speaking, their audience is, generally speaking, a majority of statist, pro-DNC, anti-GOP progressive liberal types. Not everybody. Nothing in this world, my friends, is as black or white as it can be reduced to appear to be. And that's my breaking news breaking today for you. Sidebar, just because of the keyword trigger, yesterday or the day before yesterday, I'm a little fuzzy because I am not a consumerist, so I didn't track it very closely, but it was Prime Day on Amazon Prime. And it stood out very curiously that the number one item sold was the Echo family device. So Echo. According to numbers reported on, I saw it on both sides of the echo chamber. I saw these numbers on Fox and on CNN, I think. But apparently, compared to last year's Prime Day, Amazon sold twice as many Echo Alexa-powered voice-activated devices here in the United States, and 3 times as many as last year around the world. And this really begged the question in my mind, where's the outrage, folks? I mean, especially on the Fox side of things. This is Big Brother, deep state, violating your rights, government overreach, sneaking into your house, listening to every word you say, kind of technology. Where's the outrage, folks? Where's the right-wing, anti-big government, anti-overreach, anti-espionage outrage? I think that's a question worth asking. And also, another question worth asking about that Echo device is why the fuck is it so goddamn popular? Who wants an open mic with artificial intelligence word recognition software attached to it permanently on an open line to the internet? Who wants that in their home? That is, my friends, the manufacturing of consent for the abdicating of our right to privacy. Call me paranoid if you want, but if we all buy the goddamn listening device or allow it to be part of, packaged into some bundle of something else that we buy, then we are begging not only the government, but hackers and foreign governments to go ahead and give it a whirl and see what they can spy on us about. Now, I'm not naive. Facebook, this podcast, all kinds of things like that have the same sort of general risk or exposure. But me rambling into a recording for the record as a form of entertainment, to me, in my mind, is not the same as having an open mic that's permanently listening all the time. And let me tell you, as much as I love producing these podcasts, the moment I'm done, I shut down my microphone and unplug it from everything. Now, I don't know if my phone and my laptop are being hacked but if they are, I'll be in a cage soon enough. And gotta meditate because, I go crazy otherwise, worrying about that stress. But I digress. Back to the issue of media and the echo chambers and the slow, interesting developments as to how these different entities are dealing with this. I think it's worth pointing out to you, my friends, that as this Russia news unfolds, even Fox News Channel is beginning to sort of gently start to take the thing seriously, or at least allow some of their talking heads on the channel to play out the play acting of taking it seriously. And I think that's fascinating. They're still balancing that. They're still remaining fair and balanced by making sure that if somebody at the 11 o'clock hour, if during one news hour cycle says some questioning or challenging things about the president and his behavior and about the growing pattern and evidence, that not only does that person get rebuked by the host, not rebuked, but sort of put in their place by the other talking heads in that particular segment, but the very next segment is going to be one that is way tipped the other way. And going to be pretty much all about, ha ha ha, this is all a witch hunt, this is all fake news, nothing to see here, don't investigate. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I understand it. Media corporations have been surreptitiously hijacked. Not new. That's not news to me. That's still breaking news to others who have either not, for some reason or another, been exposed to that whole idea and to the evidence available out there that kind of indicates that this is probably true, or they're just sort of keeping the blinders on and refusing to process it. Right? Trust me, I'm aware. This is just like the situation in organized religion, and I don't mean to offend any new listeners that are members of an organized religion and that don't understand yet that this is my position. It's a nuanced position, and I'm going to religion to try to make my position on the news, real news, fake news thing, try to elucidate that, okay? Because they're related, they're the same. Let me be very clear. Organized religion, et al., all three of the big ones for sure, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, have been surreptitiously and subversively hijacked by corporate war profiteers. Not last week, not because of Trump, not because of Obama, not because of Clinton, not in the last 10 years, but arguably since before the Tower of Babel. I've talked to that point a bit on and off, previous episodes, different segments, and I'm sure I'm going to do a big Tower of Babel episode eventually. But this is true, okay? This is true. Simultaneously, because, my friends, this is a relativistic universe, and yes, two things that seem to be opposite can be simultaneously true at the same time. Alright? I know that sounds counterintuitive. I know that sounds like, well, if it's the truth, then the other thing must not be real. But the thing is, two things that don't seem to concur can be true of the same network or cloud of phenomena, because everything is multifaceted and nothing is black or white. So, religions hijacked. By whom? Corporate war profiteers. To what end? To coerce us and indoctrinate us and fabricate through us the sustained consent for endless war. Sometimes I phrase that, say, for the upcoming World War III, but in truth, it's about the never-ending conflicts that we sort of get so jaded over that we forget about. Let us remember, Trumptopia, that in the history of, this nation, formerly known as the United States of America, there's only been a 22 years, give or take a year or two, of absolute non-involvement, otherwise known as peace, in external conflicts. We've only 22 years out of the almost 300 years of American history have we, as a nation, not been involved in military activity on foreign soil. Do you think that's an accident? Do you think that our freedom has been that difficult to preserve? Do you think that freedom really exists? Okay, so I understand that, right? I understand that the hijacking is not limited to religion. And I'm trying to share this with the world because I think a lot of people are just not quite come around to being aware of that. News organizations have also, for a long time, maybe not since the Tower of Babel, but for a long time, have been surreptitiously and covertly and very quietly, with multiple degrees of separation, lots of cutouts in between, subverted and hijacked. And just like with religion, simultaneously, I never got to the what simultaneously exists with that in religion, they are not all bad. They are not all evil. Let me clarify, because I know I got muddled there. Religion. The organization, hijacked by evil people for evil reasons. But, at the same time, the members of that organization throughout are not all 100% evil. The absolute extreme outliers of crazy version of what could be wrong with each system do not represent the rest of the members of that system. These two things exist simultaneously. We cannot dismiss one in favor of the other. And that's important to understand. If we don't understand that, then we won't be able to solve the problem through healing. So back to the news. Yeah. All the major primetime mainstream media news corporations, you can follow the money and realize that the same small handful of people indirectly or directly own them. But that does not mean that every talking head on there is evil. Let me add another layer of nuance, my friends. And here's a bit of breaking news that no one ever really wants to hear. Everyone, no matter what paradigm they self-identify as, everyone has a hard time hearing this. I had a hard time hearing this when I first heard it. But I'm so glad someone pointed out to me. And that is that no single living human being on Earth today or in the last 100 years has managed to escape 100% free and clear of the systematic indoctrination program of brainwashing that exists at the core of our postmodern society. Okay? That's a fact. I know a lot of people I just ruffled feathers on because they think that they either somehow managed to escape it in their own lives and are naturally born wide awake, or they think they've woken up to all the brainwashing. Let me be clear. I'm not trying to dismiss anyone, and I'm not trying to injure anyone's feelings, and I'm not trying to position myself as being superior to anyone else. What I'm telling you is what I've realized about my own life. No matter where your realizations began, no matter how many realizations you have had, you, prior to those realizations, were bombarded by the same globe-wide or planet-wide or disc-wide, whichever version of the shape of the world, hexagon-wide, parallelogram-wide, fractal hologram illusion, womb-wide, planetary phenomena of our own postmodern, cultural, self-hypnotic, self-abusive, self-oppressive brainwashing regime. Okay? Like I always say, you try to blame society, but that ain't going to do you any good because you got to wake up to the fact that you are society. So if you're blaming society, you are pointing the finger at yourself, my friend. But you don't want that, do you? Nobody wants that because we were conditioned by our parents innocently as you can imagine, because guess what? They were raised in the brainwashing. And their parents were raised in the brainwashing. We, as a species, have been living under a very sophisticated system of mental conditioning for the purposes of oppression and systematic prevention of the human birthright of enlightenment for centuries. And that's why everything's so fucking stressful. So, having said that, it is important to remember, all right, neither Sean Hannity nor Don Lemon nor Rachel Maddow are evil. They are all human beings, brothers and sisters of ours in this thing we call life, that we are bound to each other in, that we cannot escape from, and that we are all in on together. So no matter what your opinion of how they report the news, hating them doesn't do you any good. Calling them names doesn't do you any good. None of these tactics that you see, the left and the right, and people from all other corners of the ideological graph chart, are doing to each other. Why is that happening? Because at the core of the programming, one of the pillars of the brainwashing is us versus them. Whatever group you belong to, you're all righteous. Everybody else can suck it, right? So it doesn't matter which group you belong to. Conversely, since everyone got the same programming, doesn't matter which group anybody else belongs to. Their group is right, and all the rest of the groups can suck it, right? That's how that works. That's how it causes permanent division. And that's why we must not engage in the argumentation. And by argumentation, I mean both cool, dispassionate intellectual debate and the passionate, heated, rhetorical, almost absent-minded fighting over the ideological divide as to which media is the best media. Don't take my word for it. Go research and investigate and meditate for yourself. You will find out that it is a waste of time. A waste of time, my friends. Kudos to those of you who already understand why it's a waste of time. If you're curious as to why it's a waste of time, dig deeper into my history of episodes. I've spelled it out before. Don't need to take more time on it now. But let's really be clear. This is us versus them dynamics, which is relativistic in nature, which means good cop versus bad cop, which means no matter what side you're on, you always think you're the good cop, or that you are trusting and following and supporting the good cop. But so are your enemies on the other side. You see? All right. So, let's not get wrapped up in that. Let's not get busy arguing. Let's not get caught up in fighting. Let's hold these people accountable. Let's recognize the human beings in these faulty and corrupt systems. Let's recognize the ones that seem, to the best of our ability to discern by clearly observing them, that seem to be doing the right thing as opposed to the wrong thing. Because there are human beings involved in the media that passionately care about our rights, that passionately care about the truth, that passionately care about journalism in the old sense of the word, and that are trying. Now, remember, they got raised in the brainwashing too, so the brainwashing slips into what they do, doesn't it? Just as the brainwashing is there all around you and what you've done throughout your entire life until you started waking up from it. If today is the day you start waking up from the news, huzzah and hallelujah and welcome to the club. Not to be self-aggrandizing or self-promoting. I think one of the most inspired, and by that I mean it's my name on it, but I can't take the deepest credit because it came to me from on high. It was an image sent to me. But one of the most important means that I passionately hope people get and see and understand and share with others is the one that reads, I am not awake. You are not awake. But together, we are awakening. Because breaking news, folks, life is a process, right? We all know that old trope. It's secondhand now. It's the journey, not the destination, right? Well, another way to think about it is that there is no destination because this is a process. A process that, while it begins in the individual and the self-investigation, the self-looking within, it ultimately cannot be completed without the collaboration of the rest of us. Zooming back to the news and our vicious cycles, there's a question that I think really needs to be asked of everyone who claims that any of these negative articles against the administration is fake news. If it is fake news, why is there this ever-increasing body of evidence that keeps surfacing, right? Everyone said, oh no, there was no meetings, there was no meetings, there was no meetings. But then the people who said individually themselves that there was no meetings had to admit and declare and correct the record and say, yes, I did meet with them. That's not fake news. Paul Manafort, I didn't take any meetings. Oh, wait, now, shit, you're right, I did. I took this meeting and that meeting. Mike Flynn, same process. He even, don't forget, folks, and anytime it's been long enough that Mike Flynn's name's sort of fallen off the plate, hasn't it? If you are on the resistance side, and you find yourself in a debate or a discussion with a blind faith Trumtopian, ask them, hey, what about Mike Flynn? What about his statement that followed his request for immunity. His statement that said something along the lines of, "Boy, howdy, I've got a story to tell, and I'd sure like to tell it, but I need you to give me immunity." You don't have to be a legal scholar, my friends. You just have to be a fan of espionage movies to know that immunity means you're going to flip. People who ask for immunity are going to flip and turn it on someone higher up. And usually, that's the shit. That's the legitest shit. That's the realest real. When someone goes, whoa, 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 I want out, give me immunity, I want to be safe because here's the facts. Send this guy up river. But, if it's all fake news, if this whole Russia ruse is totally fake news, why is Donald Trump, his son, his daughter, his son-in-law, his associates, why are they all acting so fucking shady? I know that's not very journalistic of me to ask with such strong language. But in my defense, neither Buddhism, nor Transcendentalism, nor Zenism, nor... I don't like any of those because they're isms, right? But my whole spirituality, many people might assume, is about being super nice or super positive, super sweet. No. It's about being real as fuck. It's about stripping away the bullshit so we can see ourselves and each other 100% legit, organic. So, in nature, there's no rules against foul language. There's only guidelines about how to introduce young children's minds to foul language so that it doesn't mess with them. Anyways, I digress. If it's all fake news, why the obstruction? Why the forgetfulness? Why the, why the pattern of no, well, maybe, okay, yes, now that the facts have been dug up by a journalist. Verifiable facts. You cannot deny. There are people, and this has only been 24 hours or so since the Don Jr. email chain was quote-unquote leaked. I think it's hilarious that people are saying that in anger and outrage as if it was wrong for it to be leaked because it was Don Jr. himself who posted it and delivered it and commented on it and spoke openly about it. But it's only been 24 hours since the email chain's been exposed, and regardless of how adamantly that lawyer lady denies that she's a Russian agent, what that series of email chains proves on multiple levels is that Trump and friends have been lying about taking meetings with people who happen to be Russian and who happen to be bazillionaires and who happen to be verifiably, whether they say no to the news cameras or not, by the following the money and the facts, related to really rich oligarchs that are really close to Trump. I mean, to Putin. Pardon the Freudian slip. To me, they're almost interchangeable now, in terms of who they are and what role they're playing spiritually and psychologically and physiologically in our world. That's a whole other bit of breaking news. This is a question that the news is only skirting around, right? But I think it's a great question, and it's a question that needs to be asked more and more, at least right now, while there's still all this blind faith clinging to the Trump administration by the Trump-topian hardcore blind faith fans. Why? Why is it important to me? Because this country needs to heal, okay? And that's going to be the big dilemma once we really get through whatever's going to happen to this administration. Because breaking news, they are not going to make it to a full 8 years. I know lots of people are still clinging to that desperate hope that this is going to be 8 years of Trump-topian glory, that it's going to outshine and really put in place everyone that loved and enjoyed the 8 years of Obama glory, which in my mind was not that glorious, quite frankly, because a lot of horrible things and a lot of, were done in the name of democracy. A lot of bombs were dropped from drones in the name of freedom. And for those who do not know, I was not an Obama supporter any more than I am a Trump supporter. Should be obvious if you just listen to 2 or more episodes of any of my shows, or any of my segments. It's all one big show, right? So, I'm not going to presume to know the answer. But if it is all fake news, why the denials? Why the reversals? Why the obstruction? Why the lies? Why the shady as fuck behavior? If it's just because they're paranoid and secretive and incompetent, then the facts will bear that out. The hardcore facts, the truth of the material plane, because there really are things like that. You know, once you follow the money and the money is real, you can't deny those facts. Once you crack open all the email accounts and you read all the emails and you know that those aren't planted evidence, and you can verify that this was sent from there and that was sent from there. It's all, you know, they're not going to be able to. If it's incompetence, it will be known. If it's corruption, if it's collusion, if it's treason, and many legal scholars have pointed out that it technically can't be treason, even though these kinds of behaviors are definitely subversive and traitorly-like. We're not currently officially in openly congressionally declared war against Russia. We are, though, ironically, in a coalition of proxy war in Syria on Russia's side. That's one for the historians to chew on later. But while that may be true, there's a deeper issue, and I'm not really concerned about whether or not he gets treason, or if they just get him, or if they get Don Jr. with the Espionage Act, which is entirely plausible given the facts of this thing, or if they get them for soliciting, something of value, which I forget what the name for that one was, but so that you can't, if you are running a campaign for office, you cannot solicit anything of value, especially from a foreign agent, which anybody, let's pause and take a moment, going back to Mike Flynn and Paul Manafort openly and for the record registered themselves as foreign agents. They did it retroactively. They did it just long enough after the little bubble of turmoil came up that most Trumptopian hardcore blind faith believers forgot about it and didn't follow up on that issue. But it cannot be forgotten. They registered as foreign agents. Therefore, you don't even need the lawyer. You don't even need, what's his name? I've got a note about him somewhere here. This guy, not Jaden K. Smith, although, Jaden K. Smith. We need to do a whole Jaden K. Smith segment. Where is this guy's name? Because I'm so bad. Not Mo Brook. Got to do a bit about Mo Brook in an upcoming segment. Not that. Oh my gosh. No, I've got to find. Maybe it's over here. Hold on. One more quick scan to see if I can find this name. And no. Had this name earlier. Don't know where it went. Gonna have to come back to it. So enough on this issue. This question is important. If it's fake news, what the fuck? Ask it of each other more. If it's real news, conversely, my friends, if this Russia thing is real news, what the fuck, yo? How are we letting the President of the United States get away with such obvious acts of obstruction in what arguably would be one of the most important investigations in American history? Okay, enough of that. I gotta come back to this other one. I gotta find that one dude's name. Not Paul Parkinson. Goldberg? Goldbond? Gold something. He said a few things which I might have already talked about on a previous segment. And, no. Oh, here he is. I was going to talk about it on the next episode of Good Morning Trumptopia, but I guess I'll tease it now. I've got a couple minutes. Rob Goldstone. Okay, this is word for word real emails that he exchanged with Donald Trump Jr., indicating that he had a connection to someone from Russia with high-level, very sensitive information regarding potential dirt on the Clintons, which does not surprise me, I'm telling you guys, anybody that's going to run an interference program like this on a foreign election isn't going to just dick around with one side and leave the other side alone. You know how I know that that's the conventional thinking when you do covert election tinkering operations? Because it's old hat. CIA been doing that for years. Okay, America has been tinkering with foreign elections and sometimes publicly acknowledging and patting themselves on the back. Go fucking look it through history, yo. We've been doing that to other people for quite some time, and it's quite obvious that when you do, you dick with both sides, not just one. And that, okay, I'm running out of time, and I missed the 4-minute and 20-second mark. Ding, ding, ding. So we have less than left. So let me wrap this up. The words are legit. This is real stuff. This isn't some fabricated document. And Donald Trump Jr. said, yes, I want to know. I love it. And he even indicated when it would be strategically appropriate to release the information so that it would do the most damage later in the summer, closer to the deadline of voting when things are a little bit tighter. Duh. That's when you always spread things out like that. I come back to that for a future episode of Good Morning Trumptopia because there's more to talk about there. But I am running out of time. There's so many other things I wanted to talk about. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, oh, you poor darling. So much to talk about there. Let me end. I got 3 minutes left. Let me end with this, my friends. We've been talking about the echo chamber. We've been talking about corporate media. We've been talking about journalists. What was my point? Back off on the journalists hating. You're wasting your time. It's not doing you any good. Okay? That's called, you're just spewing evidence of your own brainwashing if you're hating on journalists and other human beings. I've said this before in a meme, and it's really important. It does not matter what ideology you cling to. If you are choosing to spew hate, then you are doing it wrong and you are becoming part of the problem. Okay? So I want to take a moment and understanding the complexities that we've just discussed, I want to give a shout out. I know that I'm a nobody. I don't have a huge fan base yet, but someday I will, and I want it on record. In the midst of this chaos, I want to give a huge shout out to journalists and talking heads of every ilk, from every orientation, because despite my views, despite what I'm trying to promote, and despite the opinion that I have about what we ought to do, my agenda is not to hate. And I recognize that everybody involved is a human fucking being. And let me tell you something, friends. What they do is not easy. It's not as easy as you might assume. How do I know that? I'm just an amateur. I'm just a guy with a shitty laptop, a secondhand microphone, and a halfway decent, halfway speedy internet connection, and cable news. And I'm trying to just play act. I'm trying to just role play and game at doing what they do, and I am exhausted. All right? So cut them some slack. All of them. From Sean Hannity to Rachel Maddow. Name your favorite and the one you hate the most. Cut them some slack. Stop hating the ones you hate. Wake up that there's no need to hate them. There is no need to hate them. There is a need to heal them and to wake them up. All right, I gotta go. As always, thank you for listening. This has been another mind-blowing episode of Breaking News. I'm your host, the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. Say hi to me on social media and share this shit with your friends and your enemies.